Pretty good. So, yeah, this is I guess this is a bit of a, how do I say it, a bit of a stressful period in the whole thing is when you're trying to pull these drawings together. We've got issues and all that sort of stuff. One really cool thing, and I don't mind it at all, is that information sharing between you guys and chatting about how'd you do this, how'd you do that, etc. So completely, feel free to discuss all those sorts of things and chat amongst yourselves and work out these things. And I'll let you know what I know.
For the peer checking, you have to put drawings there as well. Peer checking.
Yep, right. So now so some of you have been paired up via email to swap your drawings. Although you all know, so it's the two of you who will have to swap your work, but CC me in the email.
Okay.
So that way I get to see your drawings at that point. So, yeah, you two, I've already seen your drawings, I've seen yours. But what I want to make sure is that people aren't just handing up, something that's, very half-baked, like I expect that there's still be quite a few changes at this point. I don't want you just giving something really half-baked to the other person and then just copying from them. So if you CC me in the email, I can see your drawings at that point, and I can say, okay, this is what this person has done, and this is what they've gotten from the other person also. By all means,
yeah. Checking, we have to submit the one whose drawing we are checking?
Yes. So once you've done that peer checking, so it's best to send your drawing set through as a PDF. So produce a PDF and then send that to each other and CC me in the email. Then you'll give feedback to the other person, and if it's a PDF, generally the best way to do it is with sticky notes, and if you've got a touch screen type computer, you can draw on there and do some things, however you want to do it. But you'll produce some feedback to that other person. Then when you've done that, you send it back to the other person, but then you also submit that under the peer checking. Because the peer checking, partly it's about you providing feedback to other people and helping out other people, but the accessible component is about your ability to check for missing components or errors or so in somebody else's work. So that's the actual thing that's being assessed, and that's what you have to hand up here. So I just have to see that you're providing clear instruction to somebody and that you're also finding the faults. Then, after that peer checking, after you've done that, you get your feedback from the other person, and then you make changes to your drawings as a result of that. Now, sometimes they might give you feedback which you don't agree with. You don't have to take it on board. So if somebody says, oh, I don't know, you've done something, your fence is too high, for example. You go, oh, well, actually, no, the conversation I had with the council, they said that they can consider that as complying, and I've got that informal approval. I'm going to go with that anyhow. So you don't always have to take that advice, because everybody through the consult period ends up taking a slightly different path than everybody else. So be aware of that, but also you might get feedback that's not specific to you. Anyhow, then you make those changes, and when you think your drawing set is all good and ready, you then submit it to here, Task 10 Submission to Designer. When you submit it to that Task 10 submission portal, also send me an email just to let me know. So that way I can keep track of who's got what, because with this subject, with so many submission tasks and plenty of external students, there's no way I can keep track of who's got that in. And I'll be checking these every now and then, but if you send me that email, that way I know. Then I'm hoping to do those sit-down face-to-face discussions about your drawing sets on Monday, in the class on Monday. So if you're all ready, if you've gone through the whole peer checking process and ready for that sit-down face-to-face on Monday, that'll be great. That sets you in a reasonable position to to be getting that completed, and also for working on project 2.
So besides us sending each other the initial document, do we need to show any communication between like us saying, like us replying to what their notes were and saying, oh, I'm not going to do this, or we just
No,
do it?
you don't. Yeah, you don't need to go that far. You don't need to send stuff back to them and say, no, I'm not going to do this.
Okay,
this
so
reason.
just do what we...
You can chat amongst yourselves, whatever.
Yeah, but as far as assessment, just showing that we've
checked.
Yeah, done some of it.
Yeah. So the assessment is about your abilities to be a peer checker.
Yeah.
And then, so then after that building designer consult, then you'll send your drawings to the client for their final approval. And yeah, put simply, for this project, like the client's going to go, yeah, they're great, because we've got to, most of us got to move on, and we don't want to go making you sort of revisit lots of things there again. So you'll send them to the client for approval. So that's a very quick process, except that you've got to write a letter to them as well. So so the whole thing of letter writing is still written into units. Typically, it's about writing emails, but pretty much the process is about the same. Writing an email, a formal email, and writing a letter is kind of the same. You're still thinking about your structure for that, your introduction of what you're doing, the main body of what you're trying to convey, and then a nice closing statement inviting further communication, etc. So I'll go through letter writing next week, because that's what we'll be doing next week. You'll be at that point, Monday evening, Tuesday or so, for sending those off to the client.
Sorry, did you say we wait for your feedback after task 10?
Yes. So you submit them to task 10 and submit them to task 10 as soon as you're ready, because then I'll be able to print those off and sit down with you and then have a good discussion about what you can include, what you can't include, and what should be included, or if there are any problems. So I'm hoping to do that on Monday next week, because once we do that, then you can start thinking about project 2, and also for those of you doing the building rules consent, you can be working on that building rules consent. Everything's a lot more. So that starts next week on Monday. So yeah. So we're a little bit behind schedule at this point, but it sort of still works well enough for that to be relatively sequential. So that's our plan for the next couple of weeks. And then so next week's, or on Monday, it's basically about me doing those checks and then taking you through the letter writing. If any of you want to jump ahead with that letter writing, there are the recordings from last semester still on the page, for any of you that are up to that. So then beyond that, actually, I'll stop that one and produce a separate recording.